your lawn fertilizers, you see that big number that you're trying to tell your lawn to wake up, okay? Not all vegetables need a big first number. Many folks come through their front door, they say, I have a 7-foot tomato plant. And I say, how many tomatoes do you have? 3. All right, you're not going to eat that plant, all right? 7-foot corn would be nice. 7-foot tomato may be showy. Show me that tomato, okay? So typically, you don't need that large number when you're growing tomatoes. That's where the old 5-10-10 and 5-10-5 came from. When you're thinking down, you're thinking about putting root growth, okay? We also know that there are new lawn fertilizer laws that prohibit the use of that middle number. So when that law came into effect back in 2011, people automatically thought there was no more 10-10-10. 10-10-10 lives. It lives for your garden. It is no longer legal for your lawn. 10-10-10, 5-10-10, 10-6-4, they're all here and they're all legal for lawn use. Okay, no longer for garden use, forgive me. They're all legal for garden use, no longer lawn use. You can find some middle number lawn foods, but it must read slow release or lawn starter. But all the old school fertilizers are still here. So when we think about, there's your typical 10-10-10. I'm using small bags tonight because I'm not going to hold that 50-pound bag up. They're still available in large quantities. 10-10-10. You're feeding across the board, okay? Typically, when the numbers are even like that, you're fairly safe. Everybody's getting a little piece of something, okay? And when you think about the third number, the potash, that's for disease resistance and vigor. That tends to fortify the plant a little more. When you get into, well, we talked about raising corn, right? When we said, well, you know, you got the 7-foot tomato plant, you need that 7-foot corn. Corn fertilizer has a tendency to be 46 to 45-00. 46-00 is usually urea. The reason I'm bringing this up, this is for top growth. This is a corn fertilizer. And this is going to play very important into the straw bale gardening as well. So you say, okay, you're showing me all the man-made stuff. Show me the organic stuff. And we are big organic guys. So you want a nitrogen source that is, I just want nitrogen. I want to grow corn organically. I'm not going to grow anything else but corn. Dried blood, which every 5 years goes from blood meal to dried blood back to, they figure out it's not appropriate. Let's call it dried blood now. I still call it dried blood, but you see it's back to blood meal. So same thing, different package. I love when people ask, what kind of blood is it? I want to say vampire blood, but I just can't give it up. I'm sorry. It was beef forever. I got a funny feeling with the way the world's changed, it's probably chicken. Regardless, it's high in nitrogen. This is a 12-00, okay? Perfect for keeping rabbits away. Uh-oh, we got a benefit there. It is offensive to rabbits and non-meat eating animals, and a great source of pure nitrogen. All right, I don't want to raise corn. I just want to grow organically. All right, so we have a product called Garden Tone, and this is one of many. You know, Espoma is one of my favorite companies, and they do a wonderful job of organically based fertilizer. Here is a 3-4-4 Garden Tone that can feed just about anything you have out there if you want to go organic. Now, of course, they're no dummies. They also have Tomato Tone. Okay, they have things that are specific for tomatoes if you like. Across the board, this is my #1 selling organic gardening fertilizer. Why? Safe, non-burning for the most part if you read the label, and the fact that it bonds to that sand. Organics become part of your organic chemistry of your soil. So they don't just flush through like they don't just flush through your soil like man-made tend to. So if you took a teaspoon of this 10-10-10 and you put it in a cup of fairly warm water and you spun it up there, you stirred it up, it would disappear. Well, that's a good thing because that's what it needs to do in order to be taken up by the plant. But guess what? If you're growing on that sand, it's halfway to China. You know, it leaches through the soil, unfortunately. Where your organics tend to bond to the soil, feeding you longer and safer. Now, where's that question at? Where's that question? What's in there? Yeah, there, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was just going to ask, I've never used any of that in the garden. I've just grown it with, organic soil. So what is the benefit? What do you get from that?
Okay. So the question is, you never used an organic fertilizer before. She wants to know what the benefits of a garden tone are. You're getting, across the board, you're getting your nitrogen source and your potash, your phosphorus and your potash in one bag. Okay, the fact not to mention that it bonds to the soil. It's slow release for the most part. So that makes it more non-burning, okay? And the fact that it's going to be every part of a chicken you never thought about, for the most part. It's going to be bone meal, and that's your form of phosphorus right there. It's going to be feather meal. It's going to be, there's going to be dried blood and things like that. So you're getting all that chemistry in one. The bottom line truly comes down to the fact that it's going to help become part of that organic chemistry of your soil. Okay, it's not going to just disappear. So you get a little bit of the composting benefits and the feeding benefits in one. Okay, I got one behind you. Pardon me. Yes, ma'am.
Does using organic change the frequency or when you?
Yes, yes, it does. The question was, feeding organically, does it change how often and how much? Right. We know my golden rule is to read the label, but we're going to go over that. Typically 4 pounds per 100 for most part on organic. So your 10 by 10 garden starts out with 4 pounds of this material. So you want to get your fertilizers, if possible, you want to get them in the ground and activated prior to planting. That's utopia, right? Everybody has all this time to plan ahead and do what's supposed to be necessary. Yeah. You can also plant with this material, okay? The instructions change slightly, but it's just too easy. You can do it with the man-mades as well. That's a frequent question that I'm asked all the time. How often do I feed? Well, that is a loaded question because the simple fact, it depends on your weather. You know, if we're getting a lot of rain, once again, it's pushing it down. If we're hot and dry, you know, that it's not really working the way it should. But number 3 really depends on what you're growing and what it looks like. You know, if your vegetables are sitting there looking at you and you're like, when are you going to do something? It's looking back at you saying, when are you going to do something? When are you going to feed me? And we go over this, and I get in trouble more times than not when people say, I say, you feed your garden? No. You water your garden? No. I said, dear Lord, don't tell me you have children, because if you didn't give them any water or food, we're all in trouble. But you can only get back what you put into it. And you would be surprised that people say, I'm going to buy this tomato, but I'm not going to feed it. And I think to myself, why? Why, you know, people want grass seed that feeds itself. It doesn't happen like that. In order to get it to produce, you have to feed it. So answering your question, temperature, weather in general, the amount of rain or lack of rain, what vegetable, and really what's going on and what it looks like. Okay? Alrighty. All right. Yes, I'm sorry.
So I've used, like she was saying, when I've planted organically, I've done the organic soil, and then I've added the leaf grow conditioner. So when I'm adding, what is the difference between me adding this leaf grow and
Okay.
the food,
All right.
or adding them together? So I missed like.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so the question is, She uses leaf grow, and she really wants to know the difference between the leaf grow and some of the feeds that we're talking about now, the fertilizers. The leaf grow is considered a soil conditioner. You're conditioning your soil for your roots to be happy, okay? The fertilizer is the food that goes in. So if you can think of the soil conditioner as the kitchen table and chair, and the fertilizer as the food that you're putting on the table, okay? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What are worm castings?
Ah, okay, we're going to get into worm castings. So the question was, what are worm castings and how are they used? Okay, very good. Worm castings are the byproduct that the worms leave behind, okay? It's part of Mother Nature's original fertilizer, okay? It's wonderful. It is included in a lot of your espoma potting soils and potting mixes, just so you know, it's in there. It can be used separately. It's a great source of nitrogen. Earthworms as a whole, I want you to think about as like nature's plow. They just go in and they just consume stuff. We actually had a demonstration on how to raise worms. It's very, very easy if you ever want to raise your own earthworms. It's a very simple process, a whole lot easier than you might think, but you have to get live earthworms to start. But what they, the eggs, and then we hatch them. You can put them in a Tupperware Rubbermaid container with some wet cardboard. You'd be amazed what happens to that cardboard over 4 to 6 weeks. It's amazing what the work they do. One of the misleading things, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this one, is people go, I bought earthworms and I'm putting them in my garden. Okay? Earthworms need constant food. They're worse than your teenage kids. They need food 24/7. Chances are your earthworms are not going to get the amount of food they need to survive in your garden. They would in your compost pile, and they would do the work for you. But using castings, which is the waste of an earthworm, is wonderful anywhere. House plants, vegetable flower beds, any of that. It's a wonderful product. But in terms of earthworms, they need a large source of food. That's why you put them in your compost pile. Yes, ma'am.
You were distinguishing between like a soil amendment and a fertilizer.
That's correct.
Where do the castings?
Well, the castings would be almost considered a little bit of both. So the question was, the question is, earthworm castings, are they a soil conditioner or are they a source of food? And the answer would be they are both. They are truly both. There are a lot of local growers now on earthworm castings. We have about 3 or 4 different varieties here of local people. Anyone who's used the earthworm castings before have been very, very happy with the results. Unfortunately, a little bit pricey, but very effective. And excellent for house plants and a few other odds and ends. Yes, ma'am?
Is urea organic?
No, absolutely not. Urea, the question was, is urea organic? There was a time when urea was truly urine from cattle. It is now more a byproduct of petroleum. And most of your 5-10-10s and 10-10-10s are petroleum-based products. All righty. Okay, we're doing good? All right. So we talked about sunlight, we talked about placing, we talked about the up, down, and all around, and the organic. So I'm surprised someone said, I like using liquid fertilizers. Well, this happens to be one of your most popular liquid fertilizers. Okay, so if you like liquids, and it's kind of convenient, simple fact, you got to water your plants and it's convenient. So we're getting back to that 7-foot tomato plant. Anybody know the analysis on, now we're a little different because we're an independent store, so our Miracle Grow, for better or for worse, is not the same that Walmart uses. But the analysis on this guy is a 24, 8, 10. 24 points of nitrogen in that guy. Perfect for your flowers and perfect for your corn. But what happens with your tomato? It becomes 7 foot. So they're no dummies. Scots are no dummies at all. So they come out with a Miracle Grow for tomatoes and vegetables. Now it includes all vegetables. And they've reduced it, what it looks like to be an 18,621. Okay, you are diluting it. It does change. Liquid fertilizers are different. They're used differently. But just would like to mention that there are liquid fertilizers if you find those more convenient. Okay, on to watering. One of my favorite ones. 99% of the problems walk through their front door. Their tomato plant is yellow at the bottom. It's got some kind of fungus. They don't know what it is. It just started. It's happened every year from the beginning of time. Their tomato plant is yellow from the bottom. It's yellow from the bottom because tomatoes don't need as much water as you think they do. Tomato, well, I'll get the phone calls on this one, only need 1 inch of water a week. Okay? Now, they turn yellow from the bottom because they're just rotting in the ground there and they're drowning. Okay? People come home from work, dinner ready? Nope, I'll water the tomatoes. That's what they do. Not everything needs the same amount of water, unfortunately, and I can't wave a magic wand to tell you what one does this and does that. You want to be able to look at your vegetables and kind of determine what they need, okay? I have made this comment over and over again. Most vegetable plants, because they produce offspring, are considered female. None of you female in here like to produce under stress, but when you put a plant under stress, it typically activates a device in the mind going, oh my gosh, something's wrong. I have to produce babies. I have to produce an offspring. I know that sounds funny, but it's the truth. So you want that tomato growing under stress slightly, okay? I'm not talking about coming home and they're laying flat like this, but you want them to feel the need to reach out, get that root stimulated, and so on and so forth. If you've ever watched any type of video from greenhouses and stuff like that, you'll see people stimulating plants with their forearms. Okay, they stimulate that plant because that sends off a charge to that plant saying, "Hey, something's going on. I gotta fortify myself. I have to protect myself," and that is a fact. As funny as it sounds. So we don't need to spoil our tomatoes. We don't need to spoil our vegetables like we do children. We have to let them strive. A lot of times, if you're planting fruit trees or trees in general, unless your soil is extremely poor, we almost ask you to wait to feed them the next season so they reach out on their own. Otherwise, that the root doesn't search out. It's got everything. They never leave their bedroom. They're just comfortable there and never leave mom's house, one or the other. So watering, you have to let Mother Nature as a whole. You can cook your vegetables right in the afternoon sun by hitting them with too much water. You want to water in the morning if possible. I'm not big on night watering, never was. You're going to say, hey, it rains at night. Mother Nature has her own rules that we can't argue with, so, let her do some of the work. Typically, to figure out how much water you really need is to stick your finger in the ground, as funny as it sounds, and see if you feel any moisture at all. You'll notice, and this is a whole nother chapter, if we go hot and cold, wet, hot and cold, wet, you're going to suffer typically powdery mildew and things like that. That's that white powder that gets on your cucumbers and your squash. Is very deadly, acts quick, those kind of things. So when we water, we like to water the ground, not so much the plants, okay? And water in the morning if possible. All right. So we covered a ton of things. Now we have to talk about some, and I do mean some, of the insects you're going to come up against. All right. We have every chemical under the sun to fight any bug you have, and we also have them organically. All right? I'm going to start off with the not so organically guy, and that is Seven Dust. Okay? It reached its claim to fame in the 70s and 80s, and it lost a lot of luster. There we go. I get a call from Gulfstream, the guys that own this. It lost a lot of luster. People are concerned that this particular chemical, carbol, is in fact the one that's killing the honeybees. We could talk all night, whether it's the cell phone or this or that, or killing the honeybees, but that's the bum rap. So my point is, if you're comfortable, and people ask me all the time, what's better, a liquid or a dust? Whatever you're most comfortable with is the answer, okay? Once again, read that label. Hey, I put Seven Dust on last night and I ate my kale this morning. Well, that's not going to do you any good. It will have on every product how many days till harvest, and also how many applications per season can you put on a particular vegetable. Now, why would that be? Why would there be a limit to the amount of times you can either dust or spray a product? Because it's taking it in, right? It's becoming part of the plant. One of our most popular across the board is this Spray 8. Okay, this is from Bonide. You know, some people say Bonide. This is just too easy, okay? We're talking about man-mades right now. We're going to get into the organics. This guy is too easy, all right? It's got a pleasant smell, can be used on anything, anywhere, okay? Trees, shrubs, flowers, lawn, around the house, in the house, not so much this hose end, but it can be used anywhere on just about any product. It's too easy, all right? Now, you have its organic sister here. Whenever you see this tan color from Bonide, that means it's organic, all right? Now, this is Captain Jack's Dead Bug. Very effective if you want to go organic, okay? Organic bug killers, I can't say they're all different, but they all have different style of uses and how you can use them, okay? So it's important that when you buy any chemical to control any bug, you actually see or you read the name of that insect on the back of that package. If it's not on there, chances are they're not going to guarantee it to kill that animal, that insect, okay? Well, once again, a lot of times on your organics, they can be used up to the day of harvest, depending on whether it's a fruit or vegetable, up to the day of harvest, or actually the day of harvest. So it just depends.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
but what if I don't know what the insect is?
Well, then you should. Okay, the question is, what if she doesn't know what the insect is? Then you should probably come to the farmer's co-op and ask Corey, what bug is this? All right. So you either take a photo of it, you take a photo with your phone if you can't capture it. And most of these will handle, like on this guy, over 100 insects. Okay, so insects, unless we get into specific things like whitefly and some of the things that are tougher to kill, your generic killers usually do a pretty broad spectrum of killing. But it's easier just if you can get it captured on your phone, show me that photo and we'll show it to you on our chart and you'll feel comfortable. Yes, ma'am. Oh. Right. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. The question was, or the comment was, she has lots of success with dish detergent and water. And she mentioned that she has to spray it several times, but it's very effective. You can imagine if this roof wasn't on and we all got covered with a soapy substance and we couldn't breathe, see, or feel, we wouldn't want to eat anything else either, okay? So that's the trade-off. There's nothing wrong with that. And on that note, I may add, are products a lot like this. Now, this is not soap. This is bio-neem. Neem is a byproduct of the oil of the orange tree. But this guy will do is a fungicide, a miticide, and an insecticide. So they're also 3-in-1 organics as well. It doesn't have to just be a singular product, but there are a lot of organics across the board. And matter of fact, there's too many for me to show, so I had to pick some of the most popular. Yes, ma'am.
Well, people laugh and say the garden smells good, but garlic or onions mixed with that
Yeah.
dishwasher, does that sort of help?
Well, the thing is, garlic and onions and marigolds and all those kind of things planted around the garden have been effective for a long time. Just like the dried blood, as I mentioned earlier, repelling squirrels and non-meat eating, rodents. Yeah, so any of that, if we're overwhelmed by a particular smell, it can work. It doesn't always work, but it certainly can work. Yeah. And your insecticidal soaps, if you've seen that term, that's organically safe, and it's just suffering the suffering. It's suffocating the insect, is what it's doing. Yes, ma'am.
I hate to shoot down all your products, but it's best if you just go out there and pick them off and put them in a plastic bag.
Well,
I mean, you don't have a lot of them.
no, that's true. No. That's fine. And I'm going to mention why I didn't bring that up. Her question or her comment was, instead of, she's not picking on my products, but just pick the bug off and discard it, crush it and discard it. Well, you're looking at a 58-year-old man who spent his childhood picking tomato bugs off 10-acre fields. I'm only teasing. So, no, if you can discard them or crush them, sure, of course, no doubt about it. That's without a doubt. Just like the bagworm. If you can pick the bagworm off the blue spruce, do it. Do it. I'm just showing, all things considered, with time and the way people are after convenience, I'm just showing you what's out there. But without a doubt, if you can manually crush that bug or hand pick that bug, we used to actually have beer bottles, and we would put the tomato bug, which is Colorado potato beetle. If you can imagine picking those individually off tomato plants, and we put it in a bottle, and we would call it Bugweiser, believe it or not, in a bottle, and put the lid back on. But that was our joke as a kid. And I can also tell you that we used to have a Prince Albert cigar can, tobacco can, with holes in the bottom and a stick attached to it. And we would mix Paris green. Who's old enough to remember Paris green? That's pure arsenic. It was taken off the market because people were killing their spouses with it. But would mix Paris green with Midlands, which is nothing but what we call scratch now, corn and wheat scratch. And I would have to go around each tomato plant and do one shake. Each, if you can imagine that. I didn't bring that up tonight. But the cutworm would come up for the middlings and eat that arsenic and die. But that's the way the 60s and 70s were. Those days are gone. Yes, ma'am.
Should you ever put something on it to prevent it from even occurring? In other words,
okay,
right?
that's a good one. That's a very good question. So the question is there something you can put on the plant to prevent any damage? And the two that come to mind, the oldest one is powdered lime. Okay, people for years would lightly dampen their plant and apply the pulverized calcitic lime. Okay, that's one. Number two, there is a hot pepper byproduct that some people use that can be sprayed on the plant that has the tendency for insects not to bite into it.
But will that change the taste?
No, absolutely not. No. The question was, will it change the taste? No. Yes, ma'am.